Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Buying a Home in Rotterdam webinar for 2022. Can everyone hear me and see me clearly? Please just let me know in the chat. Yeah, I get a yes. Great, thanks a lot. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Katie. I am an expat buying manager, at Expat Housing Network. I'm originally half British, half Cypriot, but born and raised in Cyprus. I work mostly in the southern regions of the Netherlands, so Rotterdam, Den Haag, anything in between, and of course the suburbs around. I've lived so far in two cities in the Netherlands. The first one was Amsterdam. I loved it. That's the reason I came here. And then I slowly moved my way to Rotterdam, where I have to say I did find my home away from home. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Philippe. He'll be supporting you in the chat room. So if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in there. Philippe, would you like to say a hi to everyone?
Yes, good evening, everyone. If you have questions, indeed, just pop them in the chat and we will answer your questions in the chat or later in the webinar.
Great, thanks, Philippe. So let's get to know a little bit more about you. Where did you find out about this webinar? You can take a minute to answer that in the poll. And of course, what made you decide to buy? I'm really interested to hear that. I'll just give a minute or two to get some answers. I see a lot of people have found us through social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, and of course Google searches. And I also see that although a few of you are wanting to buy because the rents are too high, I'll agree with that. However, I see that most of you want to settle, which is good news for you guys. I think you found your home away from home too. Great, thanks for your answers. To move forwards, today we're going to talk a little bit more about the market information in Rotterdam. Of course, what are some market drivers? So look at fiscal regulations and so on. Talk a little bit more about savings. How much savings should we have before we enter the buying process? Some tips, of course, on how to win the market, and of course, a little bit more about the timeline of the buying process here in the Netherlands. Greatness is achieved in the agency of others. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to the rest of the team. We have Giovanna, Ludo, Rafaela, Philippe, which is with us today, Rick, and Ellen. Of course, when you come to us as clients, you will have one person of contact, but nonetheless, all of these people are working on our files on a daily and weekly basis. So yeah, in that way, we make sure that you have the full support from our company. A little bit more about us. We are not your traditional real estate agent. With that, we mean that customer satisfaction is the most important thing to us and not the number at the end of the deal. So we do strive to empathize with you, understand your situation, and try and help you to the fullest that we can. We help with both buying and renting. We actually started from renting around 6 years ago, and we have slowly expanded in different markets in the Netherlands in the buying and renting departments as well. We don't charge a commission rate fee, so we have a fixed rate. That is, not so common around real estate agents in the Netherlands. Usually there's a commission payout. You're gonna have a lot of expenses to cover in this process, so we definitely don't want you to worry about how much you will have to pay the service of the agent at the end of the process, just because your house ended up being more expensive, let's say. So for that, no surprises in our fees. We know what it's like to settle in a new country. 95% of us are internationals, and we all have experience in living abroad or currently living abroad, so we can definitely understand that point of view. And of course, what is our added value as agents? Selling agents to take offers from Expat Housing Network more seriously because they know that we've done our research and we've made an offer that's appropriate to the property, but also based on the client's budgeting and financing overview. We can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible. Sometimes agents have only specific days for other agents to visit, and they will only give a priority to an agent. So if you're struggling with a booking, please reach out to us. We might be able to get you that booking for that house. Of course, we can also support you by reviewing the Dutch legal and property documents. We definitely don't want you signing something you don't understand. So we'll make sure that we'll give you a good overview of that. We will also help you define the market value through market data. Of course, the person that can give you the specific number would be the evaluator and only the evaluator. However, we work closely with a lot of them. We know what they're doing, and with their help, we can also help you understand the range that your property is valued at. We will inform you about rules and regulations specific to the property, but also specific to the municipality you're buying into. And of course, we're going to make sure you don't make the same mistakes that we did. We've all bought houses in the Netherlands, either just when we came or years after. So yeah, we are here to support you in that way too. I would like to know a little bit more about which stage of the process you are. That will give me a little bit more insight and try to understand if there's a specific thing we can help you with. Feel free to pop your answers in the poll on your screen. I see that so far most of you are researching. That's very good you're here, so you're going to get a lot of information today. And if you have any questions after this webinar, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you with those. I see a few of you are viewing properties, and I see a person, they've already made an offer. Yeah, I hope if the offer is accepted that you have someone to support you with that, because once an offer gets accepted, everything moves really quick. If you need any help, reach out to us directly. And have you chatted with an agent? Most of you know, so it's a good place you're here. And of course, I see that most of you haven't talked with a mortgage broker yet. If you need any recommendations specific for the southern regions of the Netherlands, again, reach out to us, pop your email in the chat. You can directly send that to Philippe in the chat if you don't want to share your email with everyone. And we can send you some mortgage advisor recommendations. Great, thank you very much for your answers. Now let's move on. Some market information for the Netherlands, but also specific to Rotterdam. Here are some numbers. These are the development in the average selling price in the whole of the country from 2005 up to 2021. We see that in 2020, we've closed the year with almost 335,000 K. And in 2021 up to Q3, we see that the average price is at 419K. So to answer the old-time question, no, Corona did not put this market down, cannot be tamed. So yeah, we'll keep rising, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Great. Some Rotterdam market figures, as we see in Q3 comparison to last year, we sold 2,452 properties. That was a 24% minus from last year. The houses that were listed on sale were actually a lot less than that, 1,253. There's a lot of people who decide to do sales outside the Funda platform, so that's why the listings could be less than the sales. The average selling price was at 379 for Rotterdam specific. That was a 21% from last year. That is a very good increase, so kudos to the people who already had a property. And the average price per square meter was at 3,557 euros. And again, that was a 21% increase from last year. The sales times, as you see here, is 25 days. That is from the time that the offer gets accepted until the deal is closed. So you see that is actually a very, very limited time, 25 days for everything to happen. So please make sure you gather as much information as possible and you are as much as prepared as you can be before entering the market. Some market drivers, these could be of different nature. We have the fiscal benefits. Of course, we have the tax exemption. In the Netherlands, when you buy a residential property, you have a 2% transfer tax to pay. And if you're buying an investment property, then you need to pay an 8% tax. However, if you're younger than 35, never bought in the Netherlands before, and buying something that has a WOZ value of 400K, a 400K value, market value and below, then it means that you are exempt from the transfer tax, so you pay 0%. That is a very nice discount, so do take advantage of that as long as it's there. We still have the interest rebate going on, which means that the interest rate on your mortgage can be deducted from your income. That's a very nice return at the middle of the year. So yeah, a good time to buy. There are no capital gains currently in the Netherlands when you sell a property. There are long discussions of maybe applying something like that in 2025 or 2026. However, nothing is concrete. So far, if you sell your property in the Netherlands, you do not have to pay tax over the profit. And of course, we also have the tax-free parent donation. That is a law that allows a parent or a grandparent to transfer around 100K to the child, tax-free. However, they did mention that that is something that will be cancelled. They have still not updated when that would be. We thought maybe 2022, but no concrete plans yet. So we're maybe considering 2022, 2023 for that to end. Next one would be low interest rates. Money is cheap, but not free. And keep in mind the interest rebate is still going on, so the interest rate will be also be paid back to you. Another reason to drive the price to increase would be high rents. At the moment in the Netherlands, it seems that the renting market is much more expensive than the buying market, as you will pay at the end of the month or beginning of the month a rent that is probably maybe double or more than what you would have paid if you had a mortgage payment every month. And of course, the never-ending problem in the Netherlands, the lack of supply. There's a big housing shortage in the Netherlands. So if something doesn't happen on a bigger scale in the housing market in general, then we don't see that the prices will start decreasing. Of course, they will not be as fast as last year, but the lack of supply is still there. So that's a big price driver. A little bit more about the news in Rotterdam and the Netherlands. Since January this year, they have introduced the self-occupancy clause in 16 areas in Rotterdam with a WOZ value up to 355, which basically means that investors are barred from that price range, since it's not interesting for them to buy and rent out, since they won't be able to. Of course, that means there is less competition for the average buyer. Don't get confused, the competition will still be there. However, you won't be competing against the bigger sharks, let's say, if you're planning to buy a house with a WOZ value up to 355. This is also a law that 60% of the Netherlands already has. It's just that some other major cities are also to follow, like Den Haag, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and so on. The next year would be the national mortgage guarantee that has been increased from last year's 325,000 limit to 355. That is very nice to see, since, of course, the national mortgage guarantee limit is linked to the average house price in the Netherlands. So it's good to see that number grow as the prices increases as well. And a little bit more about the interest rates. We see that they're projected to slightly rise in 2022. However, they will generally remain slow. They also talk and predict that inflation will most probably be temporary, which is good for the money that you already have. Yeah. As for house prices, we do see that every factor we've talked about so far shows to the prices keep rising. However, they will not be as aggressive as last year. So let's talk about savings. What would you need in savings before you start? I'll be very interested to read your answers. You can go ahead and put these in the chat. And then I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about what to expect when buying a house. So what kind of savings you should have before that. So pop your answers in the chat. How much do you think you will need in savings before you start? It's not a poll, guys, so I will need you to answer that in the chat for me. Well, if you want to give an answer.
We have some answers: 15,000, 6%, 10%, 25,000, 30%, 30,000. Again, 15,000, 10%, 6%, 50,000, 10,000, 30,000. So different answers, I have to say. So, yeah. Katie, I think we need some answers.
Okay, great. So let's move to the answers. I put up a table for you guys to see the costs laid out, and then I'm just going to explain that a little bit more. So, of course, the transfer tax, that is 2% of the purchase price. However, not for people who are younger than 35, buying up to 400,000 and benefiting from the exception the first time. So if you're one of those, that's 0% of the purchase price, so nothing. And if you're liable to pay the transfer tax, then that will be 2% on a residential use of the property. Then you will, if you're going with a mortgage, you will need the notary to draft the mortgage deed. There are various prices out there, but in average, that's what we see that people pay, around 600 to 1,100. And of course, that is tax deductible because anything that is mortgage related will be deducted from your income at the end of the year. Transfer deeds that you will need anyway. Again, that's around 600 to 1,100. That is not tax deductible, is not related to the mortgage. You will have the service of the mortgage broker or the bank mortgage broker. There is a difference in price, but of course there's a difference in the service as well. However, with the bank, you'll be able to get something at a lower price, around 1,500. And with a mortgage broker, that would be around 3,400. However, do keep in mind, everyone has their own price. Make sure you confirm that before you move forward with them. A typical real estate agent will cost you 1 to 2% of the purchase price. However, if you come with us, that is on a fixed rate, so nothing to worry about there. Appraisers usually cost 650 to 800 euros. This is a little bit increased since last year. There are new regulations imposed on evaluators, so the prices need to go higher as well. Technical inspectors, 435 approximately. An interpreter, which you will need at the transfer date to translate to you what the notary says to you, would be around 300 or 350. Bank guarantee, which you have the option to use or not, that is something to be decided with your mortgage advisor, would be 250 euros or 1% of the guaranteed amount. Confirm that with the mortgage advisor. And of course, if you have the possibility to add a national mortgage guarantee, that will give you, it will give you an extra layer of guarantee and of course a better interest rate, since the banks will provide a discount for anyone who has that extra layer. This will cost around 0.6 of the mortgage amount, or confirm with the mortgage advisor. But do keep in mind that at the long 30 years, it will probably save you more money than it will cost to do. Let's move on with some tips in the current market. I'd like to offer as much support as I can to everyone out there, especially to the people making offers. So of course, number one is value, value, value. That is the most important thing to look at. And let's walk through an example. We see that this beautiful house is asked at 395,000. But let's take a little bit of a better look. Yeah. So we have the asking price set at 395. But the actual market value based again on market data, that's the only thing that will show you the market value, that's at 415. And then the purchase price for this property was at 435. However, we see that the difference between the asking price and the purchase price is 10%. That is a 4,000 difference as well, 40,000, excuse me. However, the market value in comparison to the purchase price is only 20K difference. That's 4.8%. So that's what you're paying is not 400K above what the house is worth, but only 20K. Now, let's say that another agent is doing the same listing, but instead at 395, asks the property at 375. Please keep in mind that there are no restrictions when entering an asking price on Funda or anywhere else. There are no guidelines on how to do that. So the asking price is not what you should be really looking at. We see again that the market value is at 415, and of course the purchase price is again at 435 because we're talking about the same situation, same transaction. This time we see that the difference between the asking price and the purchase price is at 60K, that's 16%. Before it was 40K with 10%. Again, the market value difference between the purchase price would again stay at 20K. However, let's say that the property was asked at 400,000, right? And then you go with the mentality of doing a 16% or 15% above the asking price. That would be a way much than what the actual purchase price is. So don't look at the asking price, look at how much the value of the house is. That is what's going to help you define the market value, the purchase price, right? It could also be that an agent sets an asking price above the market value. So you don't want to go and add another 15% on top of that. That would be too expensive in specific situations. So yeah, if you know your budget, look a little bit below that, because most probably it is that the asking price is set a little bit below the market value. Not in every house, but most of the cases. And make sure you look at the market value. If you need any support in that, you can reach out to us. Great. So what makes a winning offer? Offer a good price. That is not always the highest price. What is really important to the seller is to offer them security. That has to do with the conditions of the offer as well. For example, if you make an offer without a financing clause, that gives more security to the seller that you're going to go through this process because you claim that you don't need any protection in that case. However, if there's risks involved for you, if something goes wrong with the mortgage application, so before doing that, make sure you get some advice from your own personal mortgage advisor, because yeah, they're the only ones that know your case specifically, so they will be able to predict whether it will be likely approved or disapproved. Offer the least amount of hassle. So for example, if the seller is listing the house now and intending to move out in June, don't ask them to move out in April, right? There's a reason they want to move out in June. So try and find as much as information as possible about the owner of the house and how to make that the process easy and smooth for them, but also for you. Also, make sure you offer a personal touch. Let them know who you are. Why are you looking at this house? Why do you love their country so much? A lot of people are emotionally attached with their houses, and when they pass it on, sometimes they want to avoid investors, or they want to avoid young people, or I don't know. So make sure you show who you are, and of course what your intentions are for the property. 3, due diligence. The most important part after you enter the process. Of course, at some point you will have to bring a technical inspector and appraiser in. The appraiser you will need because they will have the report made up for you, which the bank needs to approve your mortgage, and the technical inspector is not obligated. But yeah, since you're making a big purchase, it is advised that you bring someone to have a technical look in the property. I'm very curious, when do you think we have to book these experts? Is it before the offer gets accepted or after the offer gets accepted? I'm looking to see some interesting debates here. Let's see. What do you think, guys? You can pop your answers in the chat. What do you think? Do we book the experts before or after? I'm starting to see some answers. After, before, book them before. So 50-50 so far. It is a trick question, that's for sure. Great. Okay, so I'm just going to move forward. This is the sweet spot. The answer is after. You definitely don't want to book them before, because let's say you book the technical inspection. If the selling agent lets you go and view the property, okay, and then you can inspect it, you still need to pay the report even though your offer doesn't get accepted. Yeah, so we don't want to have you paying more than you should. So in that case, the right answer would be right after the offer gets accepted. And just so you know a little bit more about this timeline, between the time that the offer gets accepted and the purchase contract is signed, there's 1.5 weeks. What happens in that week is that we basically book the experts for you, so the evaluator and the technical inspector, if needed. And then in the meantime, receive the contracts, review them for you, have a meeting, and then of course, after 1 or 2 weeks, we have another meeting with you to sign the contracts. Again, important, I will talk a little bit more about this later. You do have a 3 days cooling off period from the moment you sign the contract, which practically means that you have 72 working hours to change your mind. This is a benefit that only the buyer has, not the seller. So yeah, if you wake up sweating in the second evening after signing, please just run away from the offer. Don't do it. Don't let it after the 3 days, because after the 3 days, you will probably be liable to pay a 10% fine. A little bit more about the timeline. As we see, of course, the first step is to always start searching and viewing properties. And then when you find something that you like, of course, you let us know. We do the appropriate research for you, and then we draft the offer and submit it at the deadline for you. After that, we wait 1 or 2 days to get an answer. If the offer is accepted, then what we have is booking the experts, as we talked about before, appraiser, technical inspection, and then what follows is signing the contract. The moment that you sign the contract is the moment that the mortgage application starts. We send everything directly to your mortgage advisor, what they will need from our side. And then, of course, keep in mind that the 3-day cooling off period is right the corner. So yeah, again, if there's something that you're not confident about, it's good to let your agent know. But again, I would advise you do not enter offers that you intend to pull out. It is a rough market out there, and agents do talk with each other. So if you keep making offers that you're pulling out, then most probably you'll be on a sort of like a blacklist somewhere, and your offers might have more difficulty getting accepted. So yeah, enter an offer when you're confident about it. Once the mortgage application starts, it takes around 2 to 4 weeks for it to get approved. And after that, we have what we call the statement of completion. This is a final note from the notary. It's literally just an email stating to you how much cost this process has cost you, what is the tax, if there's any tax to pay, notary costs, mortgage advisor costs, things like that. So you have the final amount before the transfer date. And of course, what follows is the last transfer date. This is a date that you already agreed with the seller before you sign the contract. And of course, what happens in that day is that you first go by the property to inspect it, make sure that any agreements that you have, I don't know, maybe you agreed to with the owner to do some maintenance or some paintings, or anything like that, we make sure that that has been done. And of course, yeah, they're also moving out. So maybe they cracked the glass when they were moving out. We go there to make sure that that is done and everything is as agreed. And then, of course, the next step would be to go to the notary to sign the papers, the transfer deed and the mortgage deed. And that is basically the legal moment where you become the owner of your new home. After that, we do stay with you for another 2 months. So if there's anything, for example, you go back and you saw that the oven was not working, then you feel free to come back to us, let us know. And maybe there's something we can do for you. However, do keep in mind that after signing contracts and closing deals, it's not a black and white situation. It's a very gray area. So make sure you do a good check at your last inspection that everything is in place so you don't have to chase the seller for anything else later. Okay, I'm not sure if you have any questions at this point. I see a lot of interaction in the chat. I hope that Philippe has been helping you out with any questions you may have. I'll just talk a little bit more about our buying packages. We have the Smart package. Of course, everything that I just described is in there. So of course, we support you with every step of the way. This is our most popular package, and this is sort of like you drive and I'm in the driver's seat, guiding you and consulting you throughout the whole process. And then, of course, we do have a lot of online meetings to talk about the properties. Then, of course, we have the complete package. The difference with this one is that our support is more active in the way that we're physically there every step of the way. So we also book the viewings with you. We attend the viewings with you. We attend and book any third-party meetings that we need to attend. And of course, the most important, we are there with you on your last final check and last final day. We also have the new build package. This is something that we're introducing this year. We see that we have a lot of interest in people, a lot of clients have interest in buying new builds, and why not, to be honest. So we do have a package for that as well, where we support you mostly in the initial stage of buying a new build property in the Netherlands. Important for me to say at this point is that we only charge a 10% deposit fee to start working with you, and we have a no cure, no pay business plan. So it means that in order for us to get the rest of the 90% paid to us, we need to make sure that you have a home, you found your home here in the Netherlands, we've been able to guide you through the process and secured that for you. So you only have to worry about that later. Only to start working together would be 10% of each package. Great. I'm ready for some questions. Philippe, if there are any questions that have been unanswered yet, please feel free to ask them. I'll be glad to help our attendees.
Yeah, maybe one important question that I see over here is what is the expected impact on purchase prices, and for sure in the big cities, after the investor ban is implemented? Will the market cool off a bit, or were the cheap houses not being bought by investors anyhow?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Yeah, it will decrease the competition among average buyers and investors, that's for sure, because it will not be interesting for investors to buy the low range properties. However, we don't think that the market will be cooling off in that way, because the competition is still out there. There's a lot of demand, the supply is still less, and as we talked before, there are other factors that drive the prices. So the competition will be less. You will not be against people who have large sums of money, because yeah, maybe they're just regular people wanting to start up their life too. So yeah, in that sense, the competition will be less. However, in a general scale, do expect competition in this market for this year too.
Thank you, Katie. That's clear. Maybe an interesting one as well that was earlier in the chat is When exactly is your mortgage approved? Can you maybe explain again? What is the period and what is the time for applying for the mortgage?
Great. Thanks for repeating that question. It is really important for you to get some knowledge out of this. So I'm glad to help. So once you sign the purchase contract, once you sign the contract, then you have that at hand. Your mortgage advisor can start your mortgage application, and depending on the case, it could take even 4 weeks, but that really depends. Usually mortgage advisors are fully prepared and they prepared you before that, so it doesn't take that long. Some cases it even takes 1 week, but I would say you'll be safe to assume around 2 weeks from the time that you make the application. If it's a little bit more complicated, it might take a little bit longer, but average time will be 2 weeks after signing the contract.
Perfect, thank you. And then one on the transfer taxes. So somebody asked, and it's Zach over here, who asks, my wife is below 35 years old, but I am not. Can I still get the 2% exemption, or how does that work?
Okay, so as I understand, one of them can get it, one of them cannot. In that case would be that the person who is liable to pay the 2%, let's say, will basically pay only 1%. So you are able to claim the exemption, your wife is not, so she will have to, or you as a couple will need to pay 1% transfer tax.
Okay, that's clear. And then another one on mortgages. Can I start already a mortgage application without appraiser and technical inspection?
You don't need a technical inspection for the mortgage application, at least in most cases. You will need the evaluator. Yes, you can start the application, but you cannot submit it if it's not fully. In some cases, mortgage advisors are able to get a pre-offer, let's say, but they need some documentation for that as well. For anyone who is at this point, I do advise you to talk with someone who can support you with your mortgage application. In that way, they will request every paperwork they need, make sure you're prepared. So once you have an offer get accepted, they can move really quick. Again, if you need any recommendations on who to talk to, please send your emails to Philippe, and we'll make sure we put you in touch with our mortgage advisors.
Perfect. Then another one on the search is, how do you search for all the houses that don't show up on general sites like Funda?
Yeah, it's important to say that 80% of the sales in the Netherlands do happen through Funda. So even if you are on another platform, most probably chances are that the listing will end up on Funda soon after. Some ways that I've seen that works is sometimes some agents have their own listings on their website. So you can go ahead and sign up for that newspaper, let's say, and they will be able to send you some listings. However, again, those listings will end up on Funda if they're not already there. There are some other websites, Paparius, as I remember on top of my head. But again, 80% of the sales in the Netherlands happen via Funda. So your best chances, in my opinion, would be Funda.
Perfect. Next question is, what is the impact of the investor ban on cheap apartments? And for sure, at the moment that you move out of the Netherlands, will you then be forced to sell that apartment?
So if you move out of the Netherlands, you will not be forced to sell the property if it's under the non-renting range. The impact, again, I'll repeat that, would be that the competition among the private investors and regular buyers will be a lot less. However, in general, do expect it to be competitive because, like you, there are other people out there who want to settle down or pay less on a mortgage than a renting monthly fee. But yeah, that's what we see that it will happen. And again, there are special ways that you can rent your house out in the Netherlands. So for example, if you're leaving the country, there's something you can do about that. But again, you will need permission from your mortgage lender to do that.
Okay, thank you. And then a question is, how long is the self-occupancy obligation period in Rotterdam?
That depends. Not every area is exactly the same, and not every property, because if it's combined with a self-obligatory clause by the VVE, for example, it could be a different kind of regulation. So make sure to double check that with each property that you find that. It could be that it's the same among a lot, but it could be that it's also different. So make sure you double check that. In some cases, I've seen 2 years, but in some cases, I've seen that it's just something that is on the deed. As long as the house is valued at 355 and below on was value, it's not allowed to rent it anymore.
Okay, thank you. Then the question is over here. Yeah, I don't see the name, but can you overbid and also have the amount for overbidding covered by the mortgage?
That's a very interesting question. Bottom line is no. The bank will only give you, well, of course, based on your mortgage limit, will only give you the 100% of the market value of the house. That's why you need that report from the evaluator. However, if you buy a property with the intention to renovate it, then what you can do is order a report before renovation and order a report after renovation. For that, we can also help you on how to complete the form and everything. And then the bank will see what adds value to the property, and then will give you a 60 or 70% on that renovation cost. So in that way, you can say you can cover the overbidding, but not all of it, that's for sure. And it should be justified with a renovation application and renovation evaluation form, which will be the final value of the house. And that is how much the bank will allow you to borrow.
Okay, that's great. The next one is from Ravi. And the question is, how can we get the house before it's listed on Funda?
Yeah, for that, there are some agencies out there, they have a paid subscription or non-paid in some cases where they send you listings. However, as mentioned before, most probably those listings will end up on Funda a few days later. I would suggest focusing on Funda and instead learn how to use that platform and optimize it. So for example, set up your preferences and notifications on, so you will be receiving daily listings, new listings that you haven't seen and fall under your interested listings, let's say. And I know these few months have been a little bit difficult. It is naturally the time of the year that the listings are less. We had holidays, the beginning of a new year. So do hang in there. The listings will start increasing slowly as we progress in the year.
Okay, perfect. And then I have one still need to see over here. This one we had already before. Yeah, somebody's asking, but I think you mentioned that, but maybe you can yeah, say it again. If you buy a house and you make a profit like 50K on the house, and you sell it again after 2 years, do you get taxed on the benefit that you make with that 50K of profit on the property?
Thanks for repeating this question, whoever you are. No, at the moment, you will not be liable to pay any tax on your capital gain. So that 50K, let's say, hopefully it will be a little bit more after 2 years, depending where you buy. However, yeah, no taxes to be paid on that. There are some plans to apply capital gains tax maybe around 2025, 2026, no concrete plans yet. So yeah, if you are intending to buy and sell before that, you will not pay tax on any profit that you make.
Okay, perfect. Then maybe an interesting one, because we hear it a lot. So in the current market for a successful bid, how much higher should be the offer over asking price for a house, which is roughly about 225,000 euros asking price?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to the slide. I think visually this will be a little bit more interesting. So it doesn't really matter how much the price is listed at. There are definite patterns among certain areas and certain cities and things like that, of course, but there's no golden rule around that. The most possible scenario would be that the asking price you see is 10 to 15% below the market value. But again, the asking price, they have no limitations. Anyone can put anything they want. It could be even more than the market value. So the asking price doesn't really play a difference. And of course, in terms of competitiveness, it really depends where you are. So for example, there are the central areas of Rotterdam after the Maas Tunnel, so towards the center, that would be a competition maybe up to 50 to 20%, but not always, right? So I remember a specific case. By the Erasmus Bridge, we have the Bomches buildings. They have been bought by investors and sold. The competition there was crazy, like maybe 20, 25%. But then if you look a few streets after, then the competition is not that high. It could be 10%, 5%. So it really depends on the listing. It really depends on the area, and it really depends what the asking price is. However, 90% of the time, it will be that the asking price is around 10% or 15% below the market value. So I hope that helps. And if you think that you need more support in that, you can always reach out to us.
Okay. Yeah, maybe the last question that also is in the same line, but how do you find out the market price of a house or the market value?
That's very interesting. I'll actually update my my slides for next time. I think that's a good question to give answers to. There are different ways to collect these data. There are public information out there you can find. One of the websites would be kadaster.nl. What you can see on there is, of course, the recent sales and purchases of the area that you're looking at. Most important thing is location. So don't try to compare a property in Broeck with a property in the south of Rotterdam, for example. That doesn't make sense. The distance is too big, different location, different environment. So of course, location is the most important thing. Then you look at the houses that sold around the last 6 to 12 months. Of course, some house characteristics are important. Do not compare a house built in 2015 with a house built in the 1930s, for example. They don't, again, the quality of building is different, so it cannot be compared. So historical chronological age, would be something to look at. Energy label. Not that, yeah, it is a factor, not a lot, not a big factor in terms of price, but it can say a lot about the insulation of the house, which also says a lot about the age. So, of course, you cannot compare an A energy label with a G energy label. And of course, similar characteristics, like similar size, don't compare too big with too small properties. Make sure what the ground lease situation is. So again, if you're comparing a house that has a ground lease, you cannot use a house that has a that doesn't have a ground lease, or with the parking. So try to look at the most similar characteristics in the house sold in the same area the last 6 to 12 months. The more recent, the better. And you can find that information on different websites. let us know if you need any help with that.
Okay. I'm sorry, but you just mentioned a website. People ask again what the website was that you mentioned.
Yeah, that would be cadastre.nl. There we go. There you can see public information on recent sales in specific areas that you're looking at.
Okay. Are there some questions that we didn't respond to? Yeah, the webinar and the recording that we do will be shared with you, so you will receive an email with the total webinar and also some extra information, so that you will receive later. Yeah, and maybe one of the last two questions of tonight. Any impact of the recent changes in regulations that we foresee in the next 2 to 3 months on the property prices in the affordable housing class?
No, not so far. What has been announced so far would be again the increase of the national mortgage guarantee from 325 to 355. And then again, the self-obligatory clauses. We don't see anything new happening in the next 2-3 months. I don't know, maybe in the last quarter of the year, maybe. For now, nothing has been announced. However, yeah, we do expect feedback on all these regulations. So I do bet there will be a review or a feedback in a few months' time on these regulations and whether they were effective or not. So yeah, keep updated with us. We do announce news in every webinar. So if you're interested to stay updated with that, you can just follow our webinars.
Okay. And then maybe the last question. What are the extra costs that you need to pay as a homeowner or a house owner? What costs can we expect?
Okay, so of course, you have your monthly fees. That would be your electricity, internet, gas, water, things like that. Please don't forget the VVE. That is the Owners Association. It's not there with every property, only with properties who share common parts, or like apartment buildings and things like that. That is a monthly fee that you pay. But the good thing about that is that it's saved as part of the apartment in a special savings account, and that money is actually used to maintain the whole building. So it's sort of like a savings account for future maintenance. And then we have the taxes, which is on a yearly base. That would be the property tax, the waste tax, sewage tax, and water tax. All those are different among properties. And they really depend on the property itself, the area, and things like that. But we do take a look into that with each property that you're making an offer, so we're able to give you more insight on that on each property specifically. However, I would say, let's say from the 500K range and below, expect around 1,500 plus minus every year for the yearly taxes. And again, we do look into that with every property that you're interested in, so we'll be able to let you know more with specific situations.
Okay, I think we answered all questions for tonight.
Great. Then thank you very much, Philippe, for the support. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. I was happy to be here and support you. I hope you're leaving this webinar with something. If you have any questions or need any support, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can see my email on the screen. And of course, you can also go back to this webinar. We'll be sending you the slides in the next few days. And you can directly book a meeting with me or my colleague Philippe, and we'll be able to help you more. I really do hope to see you all soon. And if not, I do wish you the best.